Hello, welcome to my channel. In this episode, we'll take a look at the African violet miniatures and semi-miniatures that are blooming this month. We'll start with a semi-miniature called Emerald Pink by Paul Serrano and Linden Lion Greenhouses. This is a very good bloomer, and the blooms last for a long time because of the green edge around the petals, and the blooms have very beautiful soft peachy pink color. Here is Rob's Funny Bunny. It's a variegated semi-miniature by Ralph Robinson with pale pink blooms that also have some green edge around them. This is a semi-miniature variety by Don Ness that does not require an introduction because it is a favorite of many, and it is called Ness Crinkle Blue with rose-shaped full double blooms with some white edge around them. This is a micro miniature by Ralph Robinson called Rob's Bed Bunny. It's a variegated micro mini with pink blooms that have darker pink center. It's perfect for bubble gardens. Here is Josephine Fireball by Hortense Pittman. It's a semi-miniature with beautiful pointed dark green leaves and dark red full double blooms that look like miniature roses. I love this variety. It's such a prolific bloomer. This is Painted Silk by Jay Stokes. It has lost its variegation during summer, but I hope it will come back in the winter in the cooler growing temperature. It's a variegated semi-miniature girl leaf variety with dark blue, very vivid, bright blooms that are pansy shaped, single pansies. This is a semi-miniature by Hortense Pittman called Teen Bride with pale pink double blooms that grow in multiple clusters on long bloom stalks. It's very delicate. Here is Water Nymph. It's a semi-miniature by an unknown hybridizer with girl foliage and very full double blooms that are lavender and lilac in color. It's a beautiful variety. Here is a semi-miniature by Nadezhda Berdnikova. It's a Russian hybridizer, and this is N-Neytiri, and it is a sport of another variety by the same hybridizer called N-Avatar. And this one is different because it has white color bell-shaped blooms with some blue color in the center, and Avatar also has bell-shaped blooms, but they are blue in color. Both of them are very pretty. I don't have an Avatar, unfortunately, but I'm lucky to have N-Neytiri. This is Tipped Honey, a semi-miniature by Hortense Pittman with very bright fuchsia colored blooms with white dogwood tips on the petals. And I also like the shiny dark green pointed foliage on this variety. This is a miniature by Adams called Toronto Belle with variegated girl foliage and very beautiful pansy shaped two-tone pink blooms. This one has very tall bloom stalks. Behind it is a vintage variety by Storyteller, a miniature with girl leaves called Little Bow Peep. It's finishing its blooming cycle and it has pink blooms that are semi-double and medium green girl leaves. This is a semi-miniature by Ralph Robinson called Rob's Dodo Bird, and it has beautiful dark blue blooms or medium blue blooms with some white edge around them. Here is a Ukrainian hybrid, a semi-miniature by Yelena Libetskaya called Scales. It has beautiful platinum pink variegation on the leaves and light blue double blooms. This is Jolly Sun Chaser by Hortense Pittman. It's a semi-miniature variety with dark green leaves, and the blooms have white and yellow in them, and this is already lost flowers, and I'll be removing them soon so that the rosette can relax and focus on growing the new leaves. This is one of the yellow varieties of miniatures and semi-miniatures, and even though we know that there are no truly yellow blooms, but there are quite a few varieties now that have some yellow in them, and this is one of them. This is a semi-miniature by Ralph Robinson called Rob's G. Jim. It has variegated girl foliage and the blooms are two-tone. They have some pink and lavender in them. And this is the first bloom, so the blooms are rather small size. It's a very young plant and I will be removing the blooms to let it focus on growing the rosette first. This is a semi-miniature by David Rawlings called Kentucky Gooseberries. It has lots of blooms that are not open yet, but basically they look like tiny little roses that are white with pink in the center. Here are two plants of Max Dark Night of the Soul. It's a semi-miniature with variegated leaves by George MacDonald. And it has very dark blooms. And I noticed that they get darker if you grow them with elevated humidity. So this one grows in a greenhouse and it has very dark, almost black blooms. And this one grows in open air, and so the blooms are dark, but they're much lighter than on this plant here. It likes elevated humidity. Here is a semi-miniature by a Ukrainian hybridizer called NL-Paskhal'nyi Perezvon or NL Easter Chime. And the hybridizer is Natalia Lutaya from Dnipropetrovsk, Ukraine. This has beautiful variegated foliage, and the blooms, they're supposed to be bell-shaped, and they open up to form a single pansy, and they are very delicate pink color. This is the first bloom, and I'll probably remove these bloom stalks to let it grow the rosette first. This is a miniature variety that I had shown previously as a no ID or Noid. And then I remembered that I got Rob's Chili Willy in my local club's raffle, and this is the plant that I got. So I think it's Rob's Chili Willy. We haven't met for a while because of the pandemic, and I miss my club so much. And this plant reminds me of the good times that we had when we were able to meet before the pandemic. This is a miniature by George MacDonald called Mac's Pizzicato Paradise, having the first bloom. It has beautiful variegated girl leaves, and the blooms rather small for the first blooming cycle, so I think I will wait to see if they increase in size. They just opened up recently. Maybe it's just because it's a young plant and it's just the first blooming cycle. Here is Honey Blue Ace, a miniature by Hortense Pittman with beautiful blue blooms. This one is a violet with similar name. It's called Honey Blue Angel, and it has girl foliage, and the blooms are blue with green edge. And here is not an African violet, but a plant from the same family of the Gesneriads. It's a Streptocarpus called DS Black Magic from the Demetris series produced by Pavel Yenikiev, a hybridizer from Dnipropetrovsk, Ukraine. And I like it for the very deep, dark purple, almost black color. And finally, here we have our bubble garden that I wanted to show you. I keep it closed for elevated humidity with some plastic bowl with the holes that I made with a soldering iron. And so let's see what's happening in here. Last time I showed it, I showed you the changes that I made. I removed the semi-miniature trailer that used to grow here, sinks Arctic Fox Sport into a separate container, so it's growing there nicely now, and I'll show it to you in the future videos. And in the meantime, I removed a lot of suckers from Rob's Twinkle Blue here, so now it's recovering from the sucker removal surgery. The moss, the terrarium moss, is doing nicely and keeps growing new branches. And the Chantaspring mini trailer that I had potted in place of Sinks Arctic Fox, it is adjusting and it's growing well. So these are the current state of things in the bubble garden. So these are all of my African violets that are blooming right now. We are in the month of October, and today is October 28th, 2020.